Thank you, Eric. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to once again be here to speak with you. It's a great venue, and one of the things I like about this conference is that you feel very close to the audience, and so let's just jump into this. So in Nunavut, this new gold discovery is what we like to think is probably the newest, and I'd like to say that it's perhaps the best new gold discovery in the Yukon. So along with the other presenters that have spoken to you today, obviously our objective in the long term is to develop a gold mine. Whether we do that or whether somebody else does that, it doesn't matter, but that's the goal. That's where we want to get to. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently today, and I'm going to take you through a timeline which eventually would lead to success. And I'm going to go back to 1976 because that's when the first work was done in this part of Canada. The Canadian Geological Survey conducted lake sediment sampling over a very big area in the southern part of Nunavut. This is what the countryside looks like. And so they took samples from each of these lakes. And at one of these lakes, called Kiyuk, there were very high arsenic values, extremely anomalous arsenic values. You can see here, this is where the project is located. We're just across the border from Manitoba in the southern part of Nunavut. And obviously Thompson, the mining town of Thompson, is the nearest major town, and so we mobilize from that location. It wasn't until 1992 that prospectors working for Comoplex came back to this area where the anomalous arsenic values were picked up by the Canadian Geological Survey, and they started prospecting, and they found boulders just like this one, took samples of those boulders, and those samples went as high as 35 grams per ton. This is what a lot of our property looks like. We don't have very much outcrop. And these are boulders and material left behind by the last ice age. And in the foreground you see some rusty material, and that's the kind of thing that people have picked up, and that's what we use to guide us as to where we might drill holes. 20,000 years ago, most of Canada was covered by a very large block of ice, and our project is somewhere up above the word Laurentide, covered by a kilometre-thick blanket. That ice sheet in the area where we are working was moving slowly to the south, and as it moved, it eroded away the rock units below it, and if there happened to be a nice gold system there, this massive ice sheet was plucking away, picking up pieces of that deposit and moving it along to the south. So what we have to go on, and what I showed you in the previous slide, is those little tiny red boulders at the surface. Once again, not a lot of outcrop in this area. That till can be anything between about 2 and 15 meters thick. The next group to work on this property were Newmont, one of the world's largest gold mining companies, and among other things, one of the things that Newmont did was to fly airborne magnetics, and they probably used an airplane like this. They flew quite a big area, and the information from that I'm showing you in this map. Now, that magnetic survey was done at 200-meter line spacing, fairly widely spaced, but it helped to do a couple of things. It helped to map the geology, and then in the right-hand side of the screen you see some little pimples, little magnetic anomalies, and at least a couple of the gold systems that have been found here were identified by this magnetic survey. So the first drilling that made a significant discovery was carried out last year by the former management of Prosperity and my good colleague Quinton Hennig. And in credit to the former team, they made 3 very significant discoveries here at Kiyuk. And you can see the intersections and the grades there. Pretty respectable stuff. The last hole of last year's program at what we call the Rusty Showing cut 52 meters at 3.3 from the surface. So that's a pretty significant intersection by any criteria. We came back this year in the spring, in April, May and June, and conducted another drill program. Here you see a picture of the drill at the Rusty target. Our best hole from the spring drill program, I'm happy to say, was just a touch better than Quinton at 62 meters of 3.3 grams per ton. So we drilled some of the other targets, but clearly Rusty is our prime and priority target for continued work. So our 3 holes, in addition to the 1 hole done last year, have clearly shown that we have a zone that has a strike length of at least 250 metres. The mineralised system with a half-gram cutoff is at least 100 metres wide, and this zone is open in all directions, and so that will be our priority for our drill program that we will start next year in February. As part of the spring drill program, we made another discovery, so that's the 4th zone now with significant drill hole intercepts. That was at Amundsen. Here's Rob Mackey, my chief geologist, not in winter when we drilled the program, but a few weeks ago when we were back up at site. Unfortunately, we got into drilling difficulties with that hole. We lost that hole at about 140 metres, but the last 41 metres of that hole ran 1 gram per tonne. So we've got to go back and do more drilling on Amundsen. The summer program, which we've just finished, did not entail any drilling. One of the things I wanted to do with this summer drill program was to conduct geochemical sampling and mapping and prospecting over the entire property. This large property we have, over 500 square kilometres, had not seen a property-wide geochemical program, notwithstanding that there'd been extensive prospecting done in the past. And so you can see a couple of images here of what the guys do in the field. They're collecting till samples, over 600 samples with 1 per square kilometre. Like a lot of companies, we now do some analysis of our samples before we send them to the laboratory. So here's Stacey Jones. She's out in the foyer. You can meet her at the tea break, and she'll show you how this $65,000 hair dryer sized XRF machine works, if you'd like to know a little bit more about that. So all of these 600 till samples we ran with the XRF unit before sending them to the lab. This instrumentation doesn't work very well for gold, but it works fine for other elements, including arsenic, and we know at Kiyuk that we have a very good relationship between arsenic and gold. And so on the basis of that in-field test work, here's the map showing the arsenic results. So there's a whole bunch of red stars with rusty and cobalt airstrip, various other targets, but from this till sampling, we have 3 new showings, one up the north, one near Gold Point, and another one down to the south-west. There are many assays still coming in from the laboratory. We probably won't have all those until next week or the week after, but this on-site analysis gives you a great idea of what you're getting, and you're getting that information in real time. We also did some grid sampling. Here's the rusty target up in the right-hand top corner of the image in front of you. Those black dots are the 4 holes that have all got nice grades, including 61 metres at 3.3. You can see the size of the arsenic anomaly. It's at least 400 metres long. And then most interestingly and brand new is this nice blob in the lower part of the screen, which is yet another zone we didn't even know about. So the till geochemistry is working very well. So where do we take this project now? We've obviously got multiple zones with economic grades or potentially economic grades. So next year we move into resource definition. That could take 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It'll take a lot of money. My target for this property is 3 million ounces at 3 grams. It's going to take some time to get there. Then, of course, development, and ultimately what you'd hope is gold mine development. So, PPG. Why should you follow us, and what is the most significant thing about PPG? Well, I think we have the best new gold discovery in Nunavut. As you can see from the drilling that we've done to date, clearly we are poised here to identify a substantial gold deposit. It's from the surface. I believe we'll find several zones. We'll need several zones to get to my target. And finally, I have the great fortune and pleasure to work with a terrific bunch of people, and you'll be able to meet a couple of them outside at the end of this talk. Thank you very much.